they have a Facebook Live tonight also that they'll be working in the room. Their third one.
Welcome everyone, Whiskey Wednesday. Back on the scene. Cheers, cheers.
Cheers. Everybody.
It's been a busy summer.
This is to Eric. They're working this week. Here's the
working this week. Actually being back on the scene.
It's nice to have you back.
Thank you, sir. Back at the desk.
I tell you though, it's so nice to bounce ideas and just have sessions with you guys, the three of us. I love collaborating.
That's why this is so fun. I think
definitely miss you when you're gone.
Oh, for sure. I miss doing this too.
I was going to say too. I mean, just for our audience out there, all of you. We touched on this before as well, but the podcast, it's a process. I mean, it really, and when we're trying to run, a media agency on top of it, and run other businesses and make sure our clients are seeing success, and we have a couple brand builds right now and some NFT projects. We forget, there's just what I'm trying to say is that this podcast is a really nice opportunity for us to just have a fireside chat with each other, collaborate. But we're still figuring out our voice with this and how this works. With that said, we just knew that sitting back and not doing anything was worse than actually just getting out there and just starting to riff and figure out, how this flows. What are some good topics to discuss? How big of a show do we have? What time do we have it at? So, we appreciate everybody who's watching us and following us, because it's a learning process for us. Just creating this podcast, this stream, and just that's about it. That's all I want to say. We're open to feedback. If anybody ever wants to shoot us a message on topics or discussions, we're totally game for that. So,
yeah, good perspective there. I think that's the biggest challenge has been trying to figure out a way to make the most sense for us in terms of how we go about doing this. We like the live nature of it, but at the same time, we also know that we probably tighten it up in certain areas and be a little more focused, laser focused on maybe specific topics. We like the idea of bringing and discussing kind of current topics, because I think a lot of the time we kind of stay ahead of what I think is out there in the mainstream, because we're catching these kind of whispers of content and articles and stuff. So I like to be able to talk about them right as we hear them, because it is, immediate. But at the same time, there's a little bit of stream of consciousness, looseness to it, which may be, appreciated, and also may not be at the same time in terms of, are we kind of just rambling at some point? So, we kind of, I think, are trying to figure out the best way to get that content to you in the most understandable way, while still being topical. So whether we go ahead and pre-record and edit and kind of package it up and produce it a little bit more, or if we stay kind of loose like we are now, I think what we want to do definitely is to figure out a way to create some sort of searchable content topics per episode. So that way there's a little bit easier way to figure out and find things that might interest you. So I think that's something we're going to look into in terms of how we orchestrate and organize our thoughts on a weekly basis. Like this week's topic is going to be this, right? So then at least as you see the library of episodes, you'll be able to say, well, I'm interested in that one, I want to watch that one. Which I don't know that we have set up kind of currently. We've been a little bit fast and loose with what we talk about. So that's kind of something we're going to work on. And yeah, again, it's kind of it's a bit of a learning curve. We're not on-air talent, but I think, the content that we're bringing to you is relevant to our industries and I think our client base. So our job is to work on how we get it to you. I think, and that's where we're headed towards. So, but it's an interesting. I enjoy the kind of the looseness of it, but I can appreciate why that might get a little frustrating. Sometimes you probably don't want to listen to us talk for an hour for no reason. So
for random stuff. Well, that's a good segue. And Brad, maybe you want to speak to that as well. But then we are starting to come up with some ideas And so I know, Eric, you're going to share the tip tonight. Just
Yes, so we want to try and so we're trying as we dug through some of the stuff that we read about this week, it kind of, and we started to realize, well, we should probably have some sort of content focus or tip as we kind of talked. We said, here, what are the tips this week, and kind of each one of us each week would come up with a certain tip and do a little bit of a deeper dive on a subject that is relevant to our audience professionally. Maybe it's a software, or it's a process that we think is important that you don't really think about, or people have a lot of questions about that they don't always get answers to. Now, of course, you can Google these things. It's not like rocket science, right? We're not giving you this great deep insight, but in our world, maybe you don't, you just hadn't thought about that. So, we had witnessed and read some articles that kind of spoke about something, licensing, and this idea of, this goes back to what we talked about a couple weeks ago, which is the Cosmopolitan cover that had the AI generated artwork on the cover, which was, the adding keywords and having it generate an image for the cover of the magazine. So AI developed in 20 seconds, searched 650 million photos and put together the proper photo for the cover. While deeper diving into kind of that conversation, we said, okay, I think we wanted to give a little insight into what stock photography is and where it comes from, and how you can separate and differentiate between the different types of artwork, because there was a new article that we can go through today. Zach, I don't know if you can pull it up.
Yeah, I got it right here.
To what we're talking about, which is a Meta has a software that's doing an AI, or they're testing an AI that's going to do the same thing, right? But the difference is, on top of it, it's adding almost like a sketchpad component, which is going to allow you to not only type in keywords and come up and explain what you're looking for, but do some light sketches to kind of explain the composition a little bit better, or the organization of how you see things on the page, right? So you'd be like, I want this thing up here with the horizon line here, and then rippling waves down here, right? And it really is allowing you to kind of add that component to the search data. So what does this all mean? Well, going back to the idea of stock photography, okay, and that, in essence, is what it's talking about. It's talking about creating images or finding images based on that, those keywords, okay? So if you're looking for stock photography, which is what we use in, like, when clients come to us and say, I need an ad, or I need a design of some sort, right? Well, whatever you see images in those printed pieces or digital pieces, right, they come from somewhere, right? We're not doing custom photo shoots every day for every product, for every person, for every brochure, magazine article, whatever, right? We take from stock photography houses, which are companies like Getty Images, iStock Photo. These are professional companies online that pretty much buy the rights to or hire photographers to provide them tranches of photography, right, based on different subjects. Okay, hundreds of millions of photographs, right? And these companies have amassed these archives of them, and they have created search parameters for us, the user, to be able to go in there and type in, keywords and whatever we want to, search for. And then not only keywords, but they also have search functionalities on the side, filters, right? I want it to be mostly red. I want it to be mostly blue. I want it to be horizontal. I want it to be, portrait landscape, one person, no person, multiple people. And you kind of, each one has got its own kind of search functionality. But point is, each one of those images has to be tagged with data, right? So every one of those photographs, that's why these are massive companies, because they go in every photo. Someone has to go, okay, this is a photo of this. It's got this person. It's got, it's this many people. It's all these keywords have to be compiled and put into the data that's associated with that image. So when it goes into a search function, okay, you search for, I want a man on a surfboard at sunset, and I'm going to get, hundreds of pages. So thousands of images that fit that, and then a designer has to go through and sort through them all visually and pick the one that makes the most sense for them, right? And then there are different levels, right? You have, at the top level, you would say, it would be a custom photo shoot, right? So I'm going to organize a custom photo shoot. I'm going to bring in photographers, actors, models, hair, makeup, sets to the whole extent, right? You can go into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's what magazines do. That's what, all the rich and famous do. And sometimes if you have a product that can't be, that you can't fake, let's say you can't get away with using stock to portray, you have to do authentic photo shoots, right? Whether it's a property, a certain location, a certain, again, a product of some sort, right? You'd want to do that, okay? But of course,
did you say that's what the rich and famous do?
Yeah, I mean, like when you see like the Kardashians on photo, like any of those brands and products, like
Oh,
they're
gotcha.
doing photo shoots
You
every
did
day. A
say
lot of
that.
them have their own studios and stuff like that, right? And they're doing their own photography. Right? My point is, the system can be built around you to be able to produce that, as part of your business model. My point is the mom and pop, the everyday kind of, lower marketing budget product or company is not going to go in there and do a custom photo shoot for $100,000 for 4 pictures. Doesn't make any sense, right? So you go to stock photography and you try and have your designers work their magic and make sense of it. Okay. You have within that realm, you have what are licensed or royalty free, right? A licensed or rights managed, they're all licensed, I should say. Rights managed or royalty free, right? Rights managed is a higher quality level of photography in theory that the photographer strikes a deal or manages a deal with you for usage, right? So you say, this photo I need to use on a brochure at this size, this many pages, and this many printed copies of it, right? Well, that is going to cost you X. Okay, but I only need, or I need the same photo to go on a website for, at a quarter of a page this small might be a different price point. Okay, so it's a sliding scale based on use, and it's a way for them to control and how much money they make on that. Okay, and that can go anywhere from as low as probably $500 and up, thousands of dollars, right? And sometimes they have limited time parameters in terms of how long you can actually use it as well. The other way is royalty free, and royalty free is just those photographers have sold the photo or have contracted with the photo houses to sell them for unlimited use. In essence, there are licensing agreements, and if you read the fine print, it'll tell you how often and how you can display it. But usually, you're paying a flat fee based on file size or the resolution of the photo. Okay, so anywhere from $50 to probably top out $500, something like that, the most, and you get virtually unlimited use of that photo. But someone else can use it as well. There are buyout. Some of those photos do have buyout, prices and stuff where you can say, I love that so much, I want to be the last person to ever be able to buy it. That doesn't mean that the people that bought it before can't keep using it. It means that no one after you could buy it. So there's a lot of, the simple fact is royalty free usually means you buy it, you own it, you can use it as many times as you want. Other people get to use it though. And so you may see your photo of your person pretending to be at the beach and another hotel or another, location could use that same photo. Versus, go ahead.
What about royalty free?
They exist, but usually you want to add, most of those are going to ask for credit. So you'd probably have to give a copyright or some sort of credit line on the use of that. And also in theory, I'm not trying to insult anyone, but in theory, those photos aren't as good as the ones that you're paying for. Okay, so my point is, if from a legal standpoint, you can't go on Google and search for an image on Google and use that image in a commercial way. You can use it personally all you want, all day long. I don't think it's really gonna be a problem, but you cannot sell it. Just like, it's funny because I was looking at, again, an old video. I think we were watching a YouTube video of an old music video, and the FBI warning came on. I still think it's on a lot of stuff too, but the FBI warning of you cannot copy this or you'll go to jail warning, right? Which all they were saying is you can't resell it. You can make copies of it and put in, give it to your brother or put it in your collection, but you can't resell it. That's the same thing here, right? You can use a photo off of Google Images for, maybe your student's, project or whatever, but you can't use it in your corporate brochure or your annual report or your, product brochure. Right, you have to give, you have to pay or give credit or create, or coordinate license.
Is that the same for editorial use only? So let's say you're paying for.
So those are different. Yeah, those are different photos as well. So for editorial, those are specifically for editorial use, and that's a whole different kind of setup, right? I'm talking specifically for commercial use and not for editorial use, right? That's a whole different set of photos, which you can search through Getty again, and all those stock houses still have for editorial use stock available. And that's usually through, used for publication. But again, as long as you would give credit to the photographer. And I think that I don't think it's free. I think you're still gonna have to pay for it too. So
I can't remember if on Adobe, if they have, I've just seen them pop up. I haven't used them. But someone just wanting to post for organic content or whatever, there are some editorial use only images.
But that's also, but see that what you're referring to is that's also you are buying into that system at some point.
Correct,
You know what I mean? It's not free. It's like Adobe's covering the cost on that. They're
Yeah,
just
you still
turning
want to
it
see
over to
some
you.
Yeah, and as long as you don't use that image to then go and sell services or products,
Yeah.
that's kind of where I think, from what I understand, that's where you cross the line. If you use it for a blog,
Usually for profit, yeah, that's the thing, right? So circling this all back around. Really, the whole point of this was to talk about how there's these new AIs coming out now that are working with search parameters, which are similar to what you would use in a search for imagery, right? To create images, right? That's what I think is very fascinating. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, which is this ability to kind of remove a designer from the process and be like, hey, if I'm an account manager and I know this is the art I'm looking for, maybe I can do it with a couple of keywords. And now if I can start just sketching quickly, like I need the thing to be up here and I need this thing to be over here and I need that to be there.
Yeah.
Which if you scroll down on this page here, it actually shows it. There's some heavy-handed fudge fingers that show kind of how they scoped, like right here, see? So if you notice on this one on the left, it's just like a swipe saying a hot dog goes here, and there's my horizon line.
Yeah.
There's a hot dog floating in the sky photo, high resolution, right? And boom. And that's what's coming up, right? That's what it's able to operate. Now, these are all in testing phase and research phase right now, so they're not commercially viable yet, but if they're testing, go to the next one down there again. It's the same deal, right? Skyscrapers in the desert. So if you have the ability to sketch this out, now you get even closer by showing kind of, getting there quicker. So it's just fascinating. It's fascinating that this is, that this is kind of that culmination of search and meta tags and things like that, right? Which is kind of, that's everything you search in the world is tagged somehow. So some person still has to go in there and kind of manually enter that kind of tagging data. So especially when it comes to images, right? Because even AI, I don't believe is smart enough to tell the difference between, and enter that kind of those search parameters yet. The language has to be kind of put in manually.
It kind of reminds me of the whole Cosmo cover,
That's what, so I was just referring to, right? Which is that it's the next step on that, right? It's this idea of now you can kind of do these sketches with your hand to kind of show, okay, I want it to be in this area over here, and it almost is just an additional kind of instruction for the AI.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of that kind of gives you an understanding of, I think, what meta and data and how that affects search, not only with photography, but all when it comes to design, especially when if you're doing ads, or you're working with your designer, be like, oh, I just need a photo of. Can you find me a photo of that thing? Well, there's only so many photos available. If it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist, right? And that's when custom photography comes into play, where it's like, well, I don't have a view off of that balcony looking down at that thing. I mean, we have to get a camera up there, right? Or I don't have a person in your kitchen. It hasn't been built yet, right? So, you can render those things, which our rendering technologies are amazing now. So a lot of that stuff can be done digitally or 3D modeled or whatever. But, at the end of the day, too, photography is still, probably the best solution.
Yeah. Cool.
That's it. That's my tip for the day. Tip for the week.
What you guys want to pick a couple articles to run through? Is there anything that popped out right away you guys want to jump into? I'm gonna pull them up.
I thought they were all interesting. Just the people that were making all the fake Amazon reviews was just baffling to me.
Well, so I heard about this going on
in the scams.
Yeah, I mean, this was going on for a while, right? A couple years. I mean, over 10,000 Facebook group administrators.
Yeah, that's some serious stuff too, and they're really going to try to go after them. Sounds like.
Yeah.
Which I think we've all known that we can go out there and you can buy fake reviews, but knowing that they're starting to crack down on it, that's.
Well, it's still, isn't it? Is there a verified review on Amazon where they can match up the customer ID with their review? And there's that verifiable.
Yeah, and I think that's what probably their security software is doing, just scanning
Yeah.
through orders. And they said that they deleted like 40 million reviews last year. So that can't
Well,
be a manual
Amazon
process.
is just like I think of a Yelp as well, right? You can't ask for reviews on Yelp, which I think is very interesting. Yelp can thump you. But very similar to Amazon. I mean, the entire success is built on reviews, right? I mean, the more 5-star reviews you get, the better, the higher up you go in the search. So, I thought that was really interesting as well. And I know for a fact I've met individuals who are literally either looking to buy reviews, looking to skirt it in some way or fashion. So it was fascinating.
Well, and I think it's testament to where everything is going, to where reviews are really going to be what algorithms are looking at to find real data from real people, because businesses can come up with content and verbally vomit keywords all day long, but the most important thing is what is coming out of a human's mouth, or like a real customer or a real client. Those real reviews are going to be the most important things that the algorithms are starting to pick up on. And then if we look at, it kind of leads into that other article, which blew me away too, is that.
Well, and let me respond real fast. I just want to make this point too. Doesn't this just prove that transparency, trust, building a business and a brand the right way? It's the only way to do it. It's you used to be able to skirt this stuff, and now the algorithms, everything's going to eventually catch up to you. And what happens if your Amazon store was relying on thousands of fake reviews? It just took them out. So.
And but that does lead into the other article about Gen X, or not, millennials using Twitter and Instagram to search instead of using Google, which is crazy.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, which is very fascinating.
They're looking for people, like real people, instead of
for authentic reviews, right?
Yeah, they go to TikTok now instead of Google.
Which, I mean, I guess you could say that has its own issues in terms of authenticity too, because a lot of the influencers are paid. And I mean, I guess they have to, best practice, if not legality-wise, is to acknowledge that you're paid. That's a paid endorsement.
It's a whole nother set of problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hence the last elections in Russia.
Well, and that goes deeper into the whole idea that struggles with TikTok, right? And that TikTok is a Chinese government-run, company that people don't quite understand or realize that that's what's happening. I mean, I know, not to be a conspiracy nut, but that is an issue, and we've talked about that in the past. Is that it's apparently, data concerns are there, right? And it's it's a problem. I mean, I don't know. I just don't. That's good. They have direct access into our phones and into our lives, and I think that authenticity again is the issue there. And even if you don't want to look at security for that purpose, it's just authenticity in terms of the reviews that you're getting. So yeah.
Well, and Eric, just to go on that, I am a conspiracy theorist. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I would go. What's the risk for you to build, number one, your business on a platform that's they say it's in Beijing, whatever, tomato, it's Chinese government. What's the risk to you to really build up a following if you're, say, an influencer or a marketer on a platform that may not be here in 12 months? Or number two, that you're potentially, let's say you've got 10 million followers, you're potentially sharing intimate secrets and stuff about American lifestyle. And there's probably not that big of a secret, but maybe there are some secrets there that are you comfortable doing that? I think.
Well, I think that not so much that, but it's more about the guilt of what you're luring in these people into that platform.
Yes.
So you're complicit.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's an issue there. That's the issue, that you're complicit in luring in people into that network.
Yeah.
Which I just don't understand how it's not a bigger problem. But I've been proven wrong before in terms of
it's a huge
the way the world works. But
there's a lot of people waving flags pretty hard, and I don't think anybody really cares.
Honestly, that's a worse statement to make. Is that no one cares? Like they just are so.
They don't. I mean, my wife will continue TikTok. I tell her, China owns you.
It's the junk food, right? It's like we enjoy it, so I'll keep doing it. It's like, I don't know. Yeah. That's trouble.
Yeah, big time.
Anyways.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So.
I feel like we have a lot more to say about that, and we're just kind of.
We want to do something a little bit less politically converse. Yeah. Because it's hot as all get out here, and hot as all get out where you are. I think this is really cool. And I thought was really neat is that White Claw is creating a cooling mural to help Londoners BT. Because in London, believe it or not, it's like 104 degrees. It was like 104 degrees there yesterday, right? This was my study on Celsius versus Fahrenheit. I really spent some time digging into conversions the other day because I was very curious about that. 104 degrees in London, and they don't really have air conditioning there. They're not built for that kind of climate. So I'm big on signage and billboards and cool ways to project your marketing. You're not buying that this works?
There's nobody standing there. I don't believe it.
Of course, because I took a picture. But they created a billboard that for White Claw that had looked like ice and chili, and they had cooling mats behind there. So when you touch it, the wall was cool. So in essence, a refrigerated wall to a certain extent, right? But my point is that not only is that possible, of course it's possible, is that someone was willing to go the extra mile on a billboard. Like you could have made it look like that and called it dead, right? And what my respect is that they were able to convince the brand to spend the extra money to go ahead and do something cool like that. Because I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with clients where I'm like, had these great, I'm somewhat notorious for having these wild ideas when it comes to signage and street signage in cities and stuff. Because I always want to do cool stuff to get people to stop. Right? At one point, I wanted to do on a construction barricade, which are the things that you walk by on the street in the city that they have the roof over your head and they're so that stuff doesn't fall and land on your head. Well, we always wrap those with signs and stuff, right? You do construction barricades and stuff. Well, I was like, what if we took a container, cut the front of it, and made it like a diorama, like of your unit up there. So when people walk by, you could have actually actors living in the unit. When you walk by, you saw the cool interior. Of course, no one wants to spend the money to do that, right? But it was a great idea because the property was right on Wacker Drive in Chicago, and it was you'd have gotten not only would you gotten the news publicity, you would have gotten it would have been crazy, right? It would have been the coolest thing ever. Of course, no one does it, but those type of ideas I'm always thinking in those terms, and this is kind of right down that alley, which is at one point I wanted to do a green wall too, which was just all shrubbery and stuff like that, and do that the barricades with a green wrap, which now is all the rage, where people do fake greenery or whatever to plop stuff out, right? Yeah. But again, I've been doing this for 20 years, so some of these ideas were a while ago. But this is a cool one where it's what a cool way to make it interactive and tangible, right? And so you could actually interact, especially in a cool way. So this one really popped out at me today as being kind of neat. And,
what is this? Did they put in a cost? How much more? Because it's cooling gel pads.
Well, it's pads. So the question is there a system behind, a coolant system running behind it?
Right.
I imagine best case scenario is it would have some sort of, coolant behind there and that refrigerant. So
well, they even say here, they're leaving it up for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
There's obviously an ongoing maintenance cost in that.
Yeah. So just a cool concept there. Thought that was kind of neat today. Yeah. But that's again, taking as here's a designer telling you, right? So those are the things that separate you, right? So this obviously White Claw is a huge brand, and these huge brands have a lot of money that can do this stuff, but no one ever did it before. I've never heard of it being done before.
No.
So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out either. It's just doing something cool and someone being willing to spend. The hardest part is getting corporate people to spend extra money on things, right? Yes. For no reason, right? What is if I were to go on the pitch on that, I'd be hey, here's a great idea. What if we did a wall, a billboard, but they could actually touch it and we'd cool it? Let's make it so cool. Well, it's going to cost you 10 times more than the billboard would have cost in the first place. No way, right? It's like, no, I'm not doing it. Okay, fine. So put your lame billboard up and no one's going to hear about it. But here we go. This is in London and we're looking at it and it makes me go, man, I could go for a White Claw.
Yeah.
Right?
What about a gobstopper? Would it make you go?
This was cool too, right? The gobstopper shoes, which is really neat concept, which is that it's layers upon layer of. So Jimmy Fallon's partnering with this company to do these gobstopper type shoes, which means they want you to wear them down. It's layers of canvas one on top of the other. So as you wear them away, it goes to the next color underneath it, right? And as you wear that away, it goes to the next color underneath that. So
it's kind of like the golden goose shoes or whatever, but those are shown already pre-worn and whereas
so this is a fun, cool way.
It's kind of similar, yeah. But you get them new and then you wear them down.
So here's what makes that cool, which is that so now you're taking something that, and as an adult you don't change shoes very often, but as they wear down you get a new pair of shoes, right? Well, what if instead of needing to change them out, they just got cooler with age, right?
Yeah.
And they all wear a little bit differently. Now, admittedly, I don't think I would wear those shoes, but okay, they got Jimmy Fallon. Hey, right? That's a good, gobstompers.
Yep.
But imagine your kids' shoes, right? What if they always, when they get rid of their shoes, they always get upset because they get all scuffed up and they're all gross. Now, what if they were like, instead of them wanting to get rid of them, they want to keep them?
Yeah. I love the collaborations, and it just goes to show, or the partnerships. It just goes to show you can bring two completely different things and bring them together. And I would even say there's still the 80s continue to get marketed and marketed and marketed. The 80s and 90s, it's just this constant. It was bliss, right? Look at Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
They capitalize on that stuff.
Yeah, that's just it, right? Everything is relevant. Everything's relevant again at some point. Everyone picks a decade.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought was very interesting was the AR, the Nike AR hoodie, which we talked about again. See, that's why I like the idea of bringing. This goes back, talking about topical things because we're ahead of them, right? It's like here we are a few weeks later. And remember we were talking about that when we were saying about with the metaverse and that kind of stuff is that AR and the metaverse is that at first will be AR, right? It's going to be using the goggles or the glasses to see stuff augmented in reality, right? Whereas AR. This is the Nike's doing this hoodie that's going to be infused with these chips. So therefore you, through a VR Oculus goggles or whatever, you'll be able to see things projected on the shirt, right? You'll be able to demonstrate like wings and things like that, all kinds of cool stuff. Because it has these data points on this, like woven into the fabric.
Simple. What was that? A 4-second commercial? 5 seconds? That was quick, right? Great.
But again, it's the idea of the metaverse. Like it's adapting this whole new technology, but making it more tangible. Where it's like, look, it's just a way to kind of do some cool stuff in the web. It's going to bring Web3 into it and everything. So we're talking about the evolution of Web3 and what the purpose is. And, this is just an interesting way. What's the purpose? Well, there is no purpose, but the only things have no purpose the purpose is marketing. The purpose is cultural, credibility and relevance. That's the purpose. So
absolutely. Right. I know we got a nice one in here for you. Nice, fat, juicy one. What was it? This is a whole different. This was the C++. What was plus? Yeah. C++ successor. Did you get a chance to read this one, Brad?
I didn't read that one, but I just read a little bit of the headlines. And it's interesting. Google's just trying to stay on the forefront of everything.
Well, and just creating your own language, that just shows that like these companies that are just massive. think about the R&D that they have available to them.
Right.
You don't think honestly, you don't think about that. It's like it's like I cannot even imagine what goes on in those think tanks that they have like in their offices, because to them it's not for the greater good. They're looking for profit. So they're clearly throwing, like Apple, right? You're throwing dough at R&D. Like, whether it be Facebook or Google or Apple or, Amazon, right? These companies are spending, I venture to say, more than most probably, government agencies in R&D.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it's probably even better people. I mean, other than DARPA, you know what I mean, which is like the cutting edge of everything. I mean, of course, military always probably has the most cutting edge stuff going on. But like when it comes to tech, I bet you, I bet you they're not also not even telling us the government contracts that some of these companies have.
Oh yeah, definitely not. I mean, I kind of go, my question is why? Why does Google feel the need? I mean, to create a new software, a new code. My assumption is boils down to it's going to benefit Google one way or another. Is it simpler? Is it more efficient? And I mean, they have their pointers here, which is more, Brad talk, Brad speak, if you will. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I who knows what is their motivation behind it? I have no idea. But
probably just to control the space, right? If you can control the language, you control the space, and if it becomes ubiquitous, then all of a sudden you have a greater foothold on that, those websites and that programming, right?
What was the last big, what was the last big code?
Well, we're seeing that with crypto and NFT. I mean, I was talking about someone the other day, which is that all these are new coding languages. These are cutting edge coding languages that they're creating for the blockchain and for NFTs and all that stuff.
Well, because and here's where I'm going with this too. I mean, look at these platforms. You used to have to be able to code in HTML or Java or whatever, and you have to know CSS. Now you just go to Shopify or you go to Wix or you go to WordPress, right? There's like you don't have to know how to code anymore. You can get
to certainly to get across your basic needs, right? Yeah. Like when we talk about
even more. Does this give you more? What other wrappers or things are going to be built on top of this? Other than obviously Google's benefit. Google's going to benefit from this, so the one building it. But I am curious on what other additional things that are going to come out of this, if anything. I don't know.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah.
So much new stuff out there in the world today.
Crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
On a lighter note, let's wrap up with this one before we get to immediately. Paternity leave. Only because one of our clients is a pet product company. Paternity leave. The fact that some of these companies are allowing you to go to be with your pets and take time off to raise your pets and that kind of stuff. So
how do we feel about this?
It's up to the company. Honestly, I mean,
ridiculous. Dogs are taking over. I'm sick of dogs.
But the question is, what again?
I mean, it's normal.
Let them. It doesn't hurt anybody. I mean, let them. It's the company. If that company decides it's important, let them do it. It doesn't. It's not like that's not one of those big ticket like anger items that is out there. It's like up to
there's a lot more.
If you're a pet, it makes sense. If you're a pet care company, that's your audience. Wouldn't you want to? I mean, if you're
Well, I do like it when companies have the pet day or the dog day, and they can bring their dogs in on Thursdays. I think that's awesome. I think that's so cool.
If you're a pet product company, though, why wouldn't you do that? It makes complete sense.
Yeah. Oh, totally agree. Yeah, absolutely.
So, honestly, it makes more sense to do it than to not do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess is it as bad as it sounds? Is it the inmates running the asylum? I don't know, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, that is what it is. And the world that we live in today, branding and PR and how you're viewed is as important as it affects the bottom line.
Yeah.
So if it's in your space, and it's your audience, and it makes sense, that money is money well spent, right? Whatever it costs you, it's a branding cost. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's a branding cost. That's almost like the de facto or the default kind of dumpster in the checkbook, which is like all those things at the end of the day, things that you think are bottom line, they affect your bottom line revenue. Think of them as marketing expenses. You're just making yourself look better. It's a branding expense. Boom.
Well, and I would argue this as well. I mean, look at how difficult it's been for companies to hire new talent.
Yeah.
Obviously keep talent on. And if you got to give them a couple weeks of paternity leave, maybe that's a good investment.
Yeah.
You know?
Again, if it's on brand, why not? I mean, it could. That applies to even if it's not on brand, right? It's more about workforce management, right? So fine. So that goes even beyond, which is that retaining. It's the idea of the perks. The ping pong table at the office. The buffets, the food, the 24-hour coffee bar. All those things that are just becoming part of kind of work lifestyle.
Yeah.
Why not? And they said bring your dog to work thing, daycare at work. I mean, these are all things that are just there to make your workforce happy and productive.
Absolutely.
And create, with a better mousetrap. You know what I mean? If all these things are there for them, maybe it's a kennel in the office. You don't see that.
Yeah.
That's the next thing, right? If you have daycare in the office, why not a kennel? Dog sitter.
This I thought was a great.
Honestly, that might be. Again, we're going on a tangent, but that might be a lure that some of these people have because all these people that got dogs during the pandemic, right?
Yep.
And they didn't want to go back to the office because maybe that's one of the reasons. Well, I got a dog now. I got to take care of him. I don't want to go back to the office.
What does that really cost? You need 2 hourly employees. Feed them. You have a playroom. They have cages, kennels. They go out on walks. They get to see their owner.
It's 2 employees. It's 2 employees.
Really?
In a big company, it's 10. Fine, whatever. But my point is, percentage-wise to your employee base, it's got to be like an infinitesimal percent.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
and we know dogs make everyone happier. They're unconditional love.
But if you're an employer of 10,000 people, even if you have a dozen or 20, dog walkers or dog people, which they might even have already for all I know. I'm not in corporate America, so I don't know what they do and what they offer. But my point is, if Google has, a kennel program, why not?
Yeah.
Anyway.
This, not to I thought this was a great article.
This shifts over into our NFT coverage for the day.
Yep. Crypto winner. This guy, Bruce, I think I put it in the. I did post this on our Twitter. But this was a great find. I think Eric, you found it. Eric, you found it?
No, Brad found it.
Great find. Yeah, really makes a lot of parallels, but even says, kind of breaks into the investment numbers. Anybody who's wants to learn more about that, but a lot more. Let me pull a sentence here. Even year over year, I think they said May year over year, crypto trading was still up 89% during this whole.
Well, I think the point is there were a lot of key metrics that tied back to that .com bust, and companies were doing a lot of the same things. The best analogy I used was pets.com, how they went in and they over-invested in like Super Bowl ads and all this stuff, and there was just it just didn't make any sense. The financials made no sense. The amount they were spending to justify lead generation, it just made no sense for their bottom line, right? They couldn't. Right. So the same thing's happening when they were saying about even crypto companies, again, were doing that at the Super Bowl this year. And they were doing all these crypto ads and doing the same kind of thing where they were spending all this money to market and go beyond. It just was, those were the kind of the 2 things that.
Well, very similar to we crashed, right? They just expand, and then all of a sudden we got no money left.
And it's time to pay and then you got to justify that money in the first place, and it was just it didn't make sense.
But what's interesting is they mentioned here, while slowing down in the current economic climate, it's still flowing 4.2 billion in May. So there's still a huge, I don't know if they compare it to the .com specifically, but I think the point is there's still a lot of liquid that's going back and forth right now in the crypto markets, even though it's a winter, so to speak. But then let me see, what did ETH do today, and what did Bitcoin do today?
They were up. Were they up today?
I think they were. ETH was flat. 0.1. Bitcoin was at. Yeah. Bitcoin's went up. It's at 23 now. 23,301. I don't remember the last time it was at 23. Yeah, that's good.
Well, I think it's going to come back. I mean, I think it'll come back up. I think, we talk about the relations to the .com with 2000, which is that it's like, it's going to shake out all the kind of unnecessary stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it
already
has. It already has. So, and of course, this article we just have to discuss. I threw it in at you guys last minute. True story.
Oh. Yeah, a well-vetted article, right?
Yeah.
They should listen to the memes of the
Wait,
week.
what's the? I didn't see the onion one.
Oh, dude, this is so a Dairy Queen, Blizzard machine turned sentient and just decided it was tired. It didn't want to work anymore. Great, awesome article. I won't waste our time for it.
Wait, go back to the
segue to the memes of the week.
But I love the. I mean, you got to read it. I mean, of course, it's the Onion. So, sure, it's true.
For sure, it's got to be true. Must be true.
According to reports, the Blizzard machine, which had been in operation for 9 years, was removed from the store without explanation and under cover of darkness. These writers are awesome. So fun. So, anyways. Is it time for memes of the week?
Yeah, I think so. And I promise people will get better at our structure here. It's a work in progress.
It is.
But now for the fun stuff. Hopefully there's some insightful information, at least on stock photography and licensing.
I hope you guys saw this one. This one is great. We'll kick it off with this first.
Emmanuel, don't do it. Emmanuel.
I would totally. This should be a reality show.
I'm trying to educate people right now, okay?
Excuse me.
Emmanuel, every time. Emmanuel, don't do it. Emmanuel, don't do it. Emmanuel, don't choose violence today. Please, every day.
Don't choose violence today.
It's never ending. Animals.
Keeps going. She's trying to be serious. She's trying to teach people, and here comes Emmanuel.
Need a manual. That's like Psy.
Yes.
Phone calls. Silas, I'm just trying to work.
She's staring him down.
Oh, classic.
That's like a manual.
This one is awesome. When the middle seat is open next to you and they close the plane's door. Just had that feeling. It is a joyous feeling. And the comments are just phenomenal.
Poor man's first class. That's right.
Has anybody, who are the Stranger Things people here? I mean, there's got to be a few of us.
Oh,
I just love it because my daughters.
I saw a funny one with that one as well, which was that it was like when having to do with like when the cashier turns the tip. Asks for a tip when all she did was turn the monitor towards me.
Oh, that's so good. And then, how did Mike not notice who was crying next to him? If you haven't seen the show, his haircut is so jacked.
Dude, I'm gonna when it grows in, I'm gonna do that.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, very true. All right.
Oh god.
How vegans be looking as you finally try to bite of their fake macaroni.
Replacing orange juice with mac and cheese.
Oh,
it's like we would do this to Eric.
Dude, that's mean. That's just so. Anytime. That's just gross.
Replacing orange juice with mac and cheese.
One more time.
Oh.
The fuck is wrong with you? Replacing orange juice with mac and cheese.
I got very angry about that. That guy got very angry about that. I feel like
This is true. This is 100% true.
I don't know if I think both are classy self-care.
Yeah. I want this set.
I know, right? Not cool.
Yeah. So cool. I mean, how could you not? And Eric, you guys are like big time Lego
people, yeah. You know, that's those are that would be a daddy Lego set.
That is great. My signature move. I feel like this has been me my whole life.
Yeah. Ghost, man. Ghost out.
Yep.
Spectre. Oh, that's gross.
Low carb. This is low carb mousse.
Oh.
Go powder.
That shit from a butt. Oh boy.
That's it. That's memes of the week.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, maybe not the most classy. Stay classy, San Diego.
Stay classy.
You stay classy, San Diego. Well, good job, guys. That was interesting and enlightening.
Yeah.
And again, we will continue to polish.
Yeah, I think again, we appreciate everybody who's watching it. We'll continue to fine tune.
If anyone's watching.
Randall, I know Randall's on.
Pretty good pains for today, though.
Randall, are you out there?
Paging Randall.
Is there any way to see? Oh my gosh, we got a few. I took them off the board. Oh, I took them off the board. That's why the chats came off the board.
Yeah.
Oh, we
So,
can
gentlemen.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. Cheers.
Good stuff.
Salute.
Good night. Good day and good night.
Have a wonderful evening.